that you are still there listening to Rock City 101.9 FM in the city of Abeokuta. Yes, the Daybreak Show, time for the Citizens Forum, time in which we go around the country discussing topical, national, intriguing, and of course, interesting issues. Yes, today again, we are looking at national security, or should I say threat to national security, in which form you may want to ask. In the last 10 days, the Nigerian Customs Service has told us they have recovered over 2,600 arms and ammunition illegally imported into the country. And of course, some people have also said, yes, and politicians are preparing for the 2019 election. These are not facts yet. They have not been confirmed. The government security agents and the customs have said they are investigating the circumstances leading to the importation of those arms and who are involved, even though some Nigerians are already pointing fingers to some group of people. Whether that is true or not is not our own issue. But how easy are these guns? Can these guns come in? Remember, I think it's been averted to be what would have been a diplomatic dispute row between the government of Nigeria and Turkey, because that's where those guns appear to be coming in from. What are the possible dangers, the imminent dangers in allowing these guns to go into our society as we cry of kidnapping, other criminalities, cultist activities, and so on and so forth, ravaging the country? Yes, we have somebody in the house who is into that, but before then, let's quickly speak with the Deputy Controller of Customs. He's also the Director of Publicity for the Nigerian Customs Service, Mr. Jerry Attah. Good morning, Mr. Attah.
Yes, thank you. Good morning. My name is Joseph Attah.
Joseph, sorry. Okay, it's the man in Lagos that is there. All right. Mr. Joseph Attah, you are welcome to the Daybreak Show on Rock City 101.9 FM at Abeokuta.
Thank you very much, and good morning, listener.
All right. Do we have a leeway or lead to how those arms and ammunition find themselves into the country?
Well, the lead we have been able to make available to the public is the fact that it is established that all these arms are coming from Turkey. As to other details, I think we leave that the purview of the ongoing investigation. You know, when the investigation is going on, it may not be in the interest of security, it may not be in the interest of proper investigation to start making every detail. I can only assure here that at the end of it all, when the investigation is wrapped up, the public will be properly briefed on the findings.
I know that we've had some reforms within the Ports Authority, and of course the Customs has also tried to introduce more technology into how these goods come into the country. But how easy can these things come into the country? Are you worried about that? Because the report is that the discoveries, those things, the containers are already in the country before they are intercepted.
Yes, I should be worried. I think every well-meaning Nigerian should be worried. Customs officers are products of the society. They are victims of security, kidnapping, emergency, and all that. We are products of the society. We are affected.
Officer Attah, there is no way that this type of consignment will come into the country without input of your men. What exactly are you doing to not only arrest or question uh, officers who have been found wanting, but at the same time make sure that they face the full wrath of the law so that it will serve as deterrent to other bad eggs in the Nigeria Customs Service?
Well, I will easily agree with you that in an organization such as Customs, we are bound to have some bad eggs. I quickly disagree with the statement that there is no way that such dangerous things can come into the country without the support of the customs. No, these things can come in, and then sometimes either through negligence, either through outright bribery, or maybe somebody has not done his job the way he should do, maybe somebody has not done proper examination, maybe somebody took carelessness or whatever, and then it slips in. But what is important right now is that we are deploying intelligence to strategic position in such a way that these things don't come out 1 inch after the gate of our port. You recall that the first container that exited the port, that is Apapa port, the 661 container, was intercepted outside the port. Since after that, all subsequent interceptions have been done right in the port, which means our strategies are being resharpened continuously, and it's yielding better results.
Okay, quickly, let me remind you that the 1,900 pump action rifles that were seized in Lagos by your men in September, to be precise, we understand that a customs officer and a clerk was arrested because the seal of the container was broken and it was meant for examination. What has happened after the arrest of these two men?
Let me even tell you a bigger one before I come to this. Because the customs of today have zero tolerance for any act of negligence, be it corruption, be it anything that could compromise the integrity of the service and, by extension, the security of the nation. The 661, which was the one that was done in, the one that was arrested on the 25th of January this year, 5 officers were dismissed. And as I speak with you, they are facing prosecution along with other indicted people. That's to tell you how far we can go. We don't stop at dismissal. Now, coming back to your question, which to me is dealing with almost a lesser issue now, the fact that somebody was given paper and he was authorized to have signed it, and on that authority the seal was caught. It is already enough for us to arrest him, and as you say, he's been arrested. The criminal clerk who provided brought that paper and all that already had, let me not go into too much detail here because of course investigation is ongoing. They are pulling their heels in the cell and they are facing interrogation as we speak. So these two people have already been picked up.
Okay, now, Officer Attah, Officer Attah, if you say that this custom officer and the clerks are lesser issues of importance, let us go to the big fishes. You know that drug trade, arms trade is a very big business, and it's a very huge, strong cartel who get involved in this type of this type of business. Now, there are shipping companies who are involved. There are terminal operators who are involved. Now, how far have you gone to question this shipping company that carried out this importation, and what have you done to the terminal operator that actually allowed this consignment in?
Okay, the officer that was alleged to have caught the shipping line, all those who are connected in one way or the other in this shipping business. So it's just a kind of indication that the investigation will stop at no limitation in getting all those who are supposed to be involved really vetted in.
Mr. Attah, briefly, let me take you away from these arms, but of course to other national issues. The story of the importation of reptiles into the country, can you give us an update? Reptiles and other animals into the country. Okay, so the customs handed over and turned their back. You didn't, you were not doing a follow up to what becomes of it?
Right? Once you do your job, you hand over. It is expected that the other person will also do your job. And of course, they are doing their job. So if there are any issues concerning what the other person does, I don't think it will be that separate. It will be taken to a different ministry. It will suggest that the media who is flowing up, who are, the conscience of the nation and all that, know where the case has been taken to, and we talk to the CRO of that appropriate department. It will not be appropriate to me.
All right, thank you. Okay, thank you, Mr. Joseph Attah, for speaking to us on Rock City 101.9 FM.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure.
All right, let's take this short music break and we'll be back. All right, yes, nice to know that you are there. You're welcome back. Yes, in the studio with us, it's a member of the West African Action Against Small Arms and
Light
small arms and light weapon, Dr. Tope Olaifa. Earlier on, you heard the voice of Mr. Joseph Attah, who is the Director of Media for the Nigerian Customs Service, a Deputy Controller of Customs. Of course, he told us that some of the customs men are already being punished. The latest discovery is still being investigated. Well, I also want to agree with him that sometimes these national security issues, you don't have to disclose all the details, and because of that, he did not say much about the extent of the investigation, but confirmed that at least 2 customs men, including a clerk, already been quizzed. And for the earlier discovery, 5 officers are already been prosecuted. That's the customs. Nigerian Customs is also worried about the way in which these things are coming in. And he talked about Turkey, particularly being the ones, being the area where these arms and ammunition are coming in from. If you are following it, that almost developed into a diplomatic issue between the government of Nigeria and Turkey. The Turkey government has denied really, but those who deals in arms, really, I don't know, I'm not saying emphatically, but I think you will have the seal of the government before you import something, because there is strict control over business trading in arms. I'm sure of that. So whether the government of Turkey has done their own bit, or whether it is our own government here that has not done its own bit, okay, let's look at the effect of these things in our society. Dr. Olaifa, once these arms get into the society, is that all? Are they disappeared and ready to be used? Is there anything, either as individuals, as group of government, is there anything we can do to now retrieve these things once they get into this, let me use the word market?
Yeah, there are a number of things that can be done, and I think the onus lies heavily on the government people like us, the CSOs that work on small arms and light weapons, only have the capacity for advocacy, that is, mounting some pressure on the government to take action. But the implementation of these laws and, the arms control and the rest of them really lies heavily on the government. Aside that, I think it's becoming worrisome. Worrisome in the sense that the security of this nation is being further eroded. And while this is happening, you see that it's not the people who are in possession of illicit arms that are insecure. It is the masses. The masses who know nothing about all this arms trade, arms dealings, illicit or legal or anything, that are at the mercy of the impact of the proliferation of small arms and light weapons in the society. What I'm saying now is, yes, these people will have their targets, be they political opponents, be they maybe insurgents that are working against the government, or government against insurgents and all that. They have their targets. But most of the time, to prove one crooked point, you will see that these people do not actually face their targets. They face the masses just to make a statement that they have the power to disrupt the society. And the power is nowhere else but inside the barrel of the guns. So this is a case that we are all looking at now as CSOs.
Now, if you talk about advocacy, do you think, if you look at the quantity of illicit arms and ammunition, the ones discovered, some people will beat their chest and say the number of the undiscovered ones are more, that the ones that has passed through land border, the ones that have been able to beat those traps. Now, if you look at all this, you are talking about, will you say the advocacy has worked in any way?
Well, to a large extent, I would say it has worked. At least government is now recognizing the fact that they cannot do the work alone. That's why you have one side being represented in PRESCOM, that is Presidential Committee on Small Arms and Light Weapons. But it does not stop there. You see a collection of statistics and all that to prepare for arms control and the rest of them. They are majorly done by CSOs, you understand. And you see that this collaboration would eventually blossom into a very effective strategy against small arms proliferation in Nigeria. But you see, because the thing is already endemic, the impact is slow to be felt.
Now, do you think we will achieve much more results if government legalize small arms and light weapons?
I do not agree. I have said this several times. I do not agree.
Because some people have said it will enable government to control it within the houses now, within the hand.
No, even if it is only the civil society, I'm talking about the masses now, who take interest in having guns, that will be licensed. You understand? Those who are dealing in illicit arms will still come. they will still import arms into the society, whether licensed or unlicensed. You understand? Nobody will say, okay, we want to license guns for insurgents to work in Nigeria. But then insurgents depend on guns to make their statement. So whether you legalize it or not, illicit arms will still come into the country, especially because our borders are very porous.
Now, is it not disturbing that this time around, these cartels are not using the porous borders, they are using the ports?
Yeah, that's an affront.
The official force.
So, how do you measure that situation?
Yes, the thing is, I believe that, the custom should see that as an affront. And they should deal with offenders decisively.
All right, now.
Because it's like telling them, you do not matter. Please get your uniforms off you. Go and sleep.
All right, now, one thing we have noticed, so far more than 2,600 arms have been recovered at the ports. One actually slipped through and then was intercepted on the road before it got to its destination. But one thing is that it's been pump-action rifles, single-barreled guns. These are not war weapons. This is not an AK-47 or an AK-49 that you think that insurgents will want to use to engage soldiers or the police. So, if you look at the different agitations in the country, secessionist agitations and the likes, it doesn't make sense that secessionists or agitators or insurgents would import pump-action rifles to fight a soldier or a policeman that use an AK-47. So where do we place this particular importation or this particular arms trade?
Well, the thing is, all we can make here are conjectures because we do not really have the facts concerning where, and for what motive these things are brought into the country. But a gun is a gun. It's a lethal weapon. Whenever it is applied, it delivers. So you cannot underrate any form of weapon. And whosoever is importing any form of arms into the country has its own targets. And if pump-action rifle would deliver to him, that's what he would import as against AK-47. So let's say, and we are talking about insurgency. Yes, there are so many forms of insurgency in the country. For now, we may be talking about all these ones in the east, the north, and even the southwest, kidnapping, all these things. They need guns. And the guns will come from somewhere. So, yet we still have another one that is coming. People are talking about 2019. And customarily, elections have become war in Nigeria, which ought not to be so. It is unfortunate that its elections are regarded as war in Nigeria. And of course, that these people use guns. So you cannot say the one type of gun is not adequate for what whoever is importing it knows why he's importing it.
I recall, I think it was last year, if my memory doesn't fail me, former President Olusegun Obasanjo made a great case for Africa to the world about what the world global leaders can do in checking proliferation of light arms. What exactly can we do to control this proliferation of light arms?
The first thing is to make arms possession unattractive.
How do we do that?
How do you mean this?
Yes. empower the people. Let them have their own jobs. Let them have their own integrity. Let them have, instill confidence in every citizen that is able to, cater for himself and the immediate family. How do you do that? Try and eradicate poverty. If you cannot eradicate poverty, minimize it, bring it down to its lowest ebb, so that every citizen would wake up and be sure of where his meal is coming from. If you have people like that, they will not run after arms. They do not need it. Everybody will face his work. At the end of the day, you have something to bring back. What you concentrate on is bringing up your family the right way, to the children, to bring them up as good citizens, whom you can hand over to. So you see, gun running will become unattractive. Nobody wants to go there, because you don't even want to be your image, your dignity to be tarnished. If you see a gun on anyone, you know that the implication of that. People will think of you as an outcast, somebody who has done something that is untoward. You want to run from such things. That is making it unattractive. But you can only achieve that if that man is both psychologically and economically satisfied.
Dr. Olaifa,
Yes.
the truth and reality right now is that we have so many.
Yeah.
In fact, we cannot quantify the number of these arms that are already in hands and homes in the country. Therefore, controlling it or checking the usage becomes paramount. Now, the customs have owned up, according to the spokesperson now. We agreed that there are issues with them and the government. Custom duty is to prevent, to stop those ones from coming in. Once they are in, perhaps it becomes other people's business to check in, and people will say security agencies, the police and whatever security agencies we have. The police and the people themselves. But I must also add that if you look at the police statistics of demand for licensing of guns has increased, which means Nigerians are requesting for it the more. So once these things get among us, the small arms and light weapons, how do we then stop its spread? Because it becomes, like the word we used, an epidemic.
Yeah, like I said earlier on, I said the onus falls on government to do it. And I want to believe that government sincerely wants to do it. And there is something we call arms control. When it begins, you see, it is possible. You see what happened in the South on this amnesty project.
And Benue State.
Yes, a lot of arms were surrendered. We can still have such things going on. Though we may say how much of the arms in their custody did they release, but they released some. And those ones that were that were taken from them were, of course, would be a reduction in the mass of the arms they have in their custody. So arms control is it, and I know government is doing something about it. I just want to advise that they give it priority.
Is there anything
because the society is not secure as it is for now.
Is there anything we, the people, away from the security agencies,
Yes.
is there anything we can do
Yes.
to help in controlling it and checking this?
Exactly. We can report. We can report any such deals that we know. In the past, people used to fear the police. They'll say, oh, if you report, the police will tell you. But, the thing is open now. You can report without even disclosing your identity. You can report through all these media outlets and all that, so that people can be conscious of the people around them. You said, you see, this security thing is not the mandate of the police or the security agencies alone. Even this civil society themselves, you know, the masses, the citizens, can identify people with suspicious movements, people with suspicious bearings. You can identify them amongst you and then do something about it. That's why we have the CDAs. The CDAs should know who and who lives within their community. They should know who the stranger is that has newly come. They should know how to track, you know, the movement of such a person. And they know there are outlets. They know how they get to the place. I can't be saying all this in the, on air.
All right, Dr. Olaifa.
Yeah.
This may be a little bit to the extreme, but we must recognize the opinions of all shades and, of course, a different school of thought. Some people believe that the Second Amendment of the U.S. Constitution, which guarantees the right of Americans to bear arms, no matter how light it may be, should also be looked into for Nigeria as a way of checking violence, of checking crime, and the like. So, do you think Nigeria is ripe for this? Or would it stop with this illegal importation of light arms?
I think, you know, all these things are coming up because we believe in scratching our problems on the surface. When those people in America, when they caused into the gay nightclubs, you mean those the people, the victims, didn't have guns on them? You can only be sure of yourself. You cannot preempt what the other person is thinking about you at any point in time. So the preparedness might not really suffice when it comes to reality. You can't say you want to be carrying guns about and all that. When are you to use your gun? Is it for defense? You can only defend yourself when you know there's somebody, you see your attacker. But if you don't see the attacker, and most of the time, victims are taken by surprise. I think it's a venture in futility. It does not solve the problem. The problem is make the society viable. Let the society be economically, politically stable. You see how much guns will exit the society.
Okay, quickly.
And so on.
A lot of people have also proposed amnesty. Do you think that should also be presented so that those who have in possession many of these arms can approach the Nigerian police, the Department of Security Service, DSS, the Nigerian Army, and other security agencies to say, hey, I got this weapon illegally, and then I want to submit it, and then I'll be free from prosecution. Would that work? Would that help in actually mopping up?
Yes. When we come to arms control, yes, it is one of the strategies that can be effective, at least to a reasonable extent. Make people responsible. You know, let them know that if they submit the arms, they have something better. I was looking at a video posted by General Boro, the man in charge of Amnesty. You know, he posted it over the weekend on a group wall, and I saw this man, one of the beneficiaries of the amnesty program in the South. He's not a farmer. If you see the eggs that he produces on his farm, you will be amazed. Very big, robust things like that. He was trained not only in Nigeria, he was taken to Olaifa where he studied all this poultry thing and all that. My dear brother, that thing will work. It will work if properly and honestly implemented.
Now, again, quickly within the next 2 minutes, let's look at the international dimension to all this. I thought production and sale of arms is strictly controlled by the international community. And in the case of what we are discussing, we've been able to identify some areas where these things are coming from. How should Nigerian government use this to trace and deal with the problem we are talking about? You know where they are coming from, you probably know the producers. So why have we not been able to tackle it from that front?
Yes, that's usually the problem with the United Nations, the implementation of all these treaties, the conventions, the codes that you just see that some countries just blatantly disobey these rules, and most of the time they get away with it. When this issue of arms coming into Nigeria and specifically from Turkey came up, I went back to look at the arms trade treaty. I said, okay, is Turkey a signatory to the arms trade treaty? Turkey is a signatory to arms trade treaty, and so also is Nigeria. Then there is no way, no excuse for Turkey to bring in arms into Nigeria, except if it is legally requested for, and that will be by government. Government of Turkey cannot say they do not know how these things get out of their domain. That is it. You see, there is always this conspiracy and all that. It's like when we make a law, then our money comes in. It diffuses all the powers of the law.
All right, we need to take this break to allow the national news to come up. It's still the Daybreak Show Citizens Forum. This morning we are looking at the illegal importation of these small arms and light weapon. Amazing statistics from the Nigerian coast of the last 10 days, over 2,600 intercepted. You now wonder how many were not intercepted. And we have with us Dr. Tope Olaifa. She is a member of the West African Action Against Small Arms and Light Weapons. We'll be back after the 10 o'clock news.
Alright, you're welcome back. It's still the Daybreak Show, Rock City 101.9 FM. Citizens Forum. This morning we are looking at illegal importation of arms, small arms, light weapons, whatever you want to call it, into the country. And some may actually question, can we really call pump action rifles small arms or light weapons? These are really weapons of mass destruction, as some may put it. But of course, if you see some weapons of mass destruction, then you see that what we still have in our hands is still a chance.
The truth is, a gun is a gun.
I understand.
It can kill. The resultant effect.
Yes, it can kill.
Yes.
It's true. But of course, how do we check this? What exactly do we have on our hands? What are the security agencies doing? Are they really on their toes to actually nip this in the bud before it degenerates into something that would actually spiral out of control? Well, we are looking at all this. Earlier on, we spoke to Customs Officer Jerry Attah, who is the Director of Public Relations and Information of the Nigeria Customs Service. And of course, he's of the opinion that the Nigeria Customs Service is doing its bid to make sure that they nip this in the bud and make sure that they are more vigilant. Intelligence gathering is on the highest gear to make sure that this kind of situations are brought under control. We have in the studio Dr. Tope Olaifa. He's a member of the West African Action Against light weapons and small arms. And of course, he's a lecturer at the Federal University of Agriculture at Bekuta. She actually lectures peace and strategic studies, and of course, security and intelligence studies. That's the qualified guest we have in the studio. We would go straight to your own contributions, questions, and comments, as it were.
Thank you very much, our respondents. There is barely anything I want to add to what you have said, because you have actually approached the issue in a very constructive manner. Mr. Benson was talking about this arms trade and all that, and the secrecy that is surrounding it. But then arms trade is not just any trade. It's not like trading in salt and pepper and all that. So we cannot say it is enshrouded so much in secrecy like that. Like when arms is about to move from a country, it is not only the person who is moving it that knows. There are other agencies. And most of the time, it goes with the connivance of government. So you see that arms trade cannot be said to be entirely secret, maybe to the masses, those who do not know about it. But there are so many other people involved in it. It is not just another trade. Then we talk about our porous borders, that we don't have enough manpower to man our border posts. That is true, very true. Recently, I was involved in a research in the Yewa area. I was to move from, I think, Lara to Ijofin or something, but very far inside. As we were moving on, I saw, maybe in a space of 5-10 minutes, you just see this Okada people, motorcyclists. They'll come in, heavily banded with bags of rice and other items. You see them hanging, Immediately they get to the road, they look for another outlet by the left to go inside. And I saw this thing as a very, a recurring trend all through my travel through that very long road. Then I said, can we have customs officers manning these other roads? Of course, we cannot have, as Nigeria is now. We don't have enough manpower to put on every stop. Between one border and the other, between Seme and the Diroko, there are so many outlets for these smugglers to come in. They will smuggle anything, including arms. So all this make the society very, very insecure. And of course, illegal importation of arms. We have talked about that, Mr. Temitayo. You said you were talking about joint increased workforce, and of course, collaboration between security agents. I want to tell you that from my own findings, these security agents at the official borders usually collaborate. They collaborate for as much as their capacity can go. Of course, it doesn't mean we won't have a sort of conflict arising between them once in a while, but it is not the order of the day. They do collaborate. In fact, you see them mounting a search, together against the smugglers. But it is only the smugglers that they know. It is only when they get wind of the activities of these smugglers that they do it. But then, if they do that at the conventional borders, what about these other borders? They are more active than the conventional borders. And that is the problem we have there. Honorable Larry from House of Assembly, I thank you very much. I see that we are thinking together, and I just hope that we'll be able to work together. I know that living in peace is possible in Nigeria. All we need is to change our mindset. If we change our mindset and everybody is his brother's keeper, if you know that anytime you take an action, somebody is at the receiving end of that action, what impact would it have on him or her? Then you begin to know the kind of actions you'll be taking. And all these are what I believe will make this gun running, gun handling, gun possession, gun using very unattractive. Thank you.
Can we add the messages we are burning?
I guess we have a little bit challenge with the network.
Okay, so we'll
but
go
keep
back to-
sending your messages. We'll do. Include your name and send to 32120. And the Twitter handle remains at Roxy FM.
Well, my response to Mr. Kayode Olumide is that, he said, can light weapons kill? Light weapons are guns. Guns are part of light weapons. Although we have some that are tools that which can be converted to a weapon, at the point of attack, at the point of fury, at the point of revenge or anything. That's where your knife, table knife, comes in. That's where you have your pins, your office pins, little as they are.
Screwdrivers,
You have your screwdrivers. You have, all these tools
bottle of
that you
drinks.
use. You see, they just change. They change status depending on your level of fury and the circumstance that calls for it. So all these things can kill, even your matchstick. It's a light weapon, and it can kill. And you talked about the governors forum, which should be the hope for the masses. Well, I want to believe that they too are thinking about these things. But what it's not thinking about them that is so important now, but prioritizing these issues and making them issues that the world act upon. Because actually, like I said earlier, it is a worrisome trend. And every finger begins to point at politics. Every finger points at politics as being one major motive for importation of illicit arms. So I think our elites should begin to think of how to handle that area. If it is true that they even give guns as gifts and all that, those who give and those who receive, they are all culpable. They should be thinking of, politics without bitterness. Why must I kill my opponent? Let my opponent talk, let me talk. A superior argument shall win. And mine does not have to be the superior argument all the time. We can reason together and work together constructively to make Nigeria great. Thank you. Then Mr. Emmanuel talked about bush tracking. Yes, that some customs go into these bushes to extort money from smugglers. I talked earlier on about bad eggs amongst people. There is no way. Whoever is found there goes there at his own risk. If these smugglers kill them, you see, we hear about that. They found the body of a customs officer somewhere in the bush and all that. If in the course of his going to extract money from smugglers, he loses his life, then I think he has himself to blame for that. So this bush tracking, We are talking about we don't have enough manpower. So who are we going to send to these trucks to man them? That is why we say our borders still remain porous. And in fact, it is disheartening to know that we have to accept that fact. There must be something to do about it so that illegal routes would also be tracked. That's why you find these customs men coming into town to raid stores and all that sometimes, thinking, okay, what they are not able to arrest at the borders, what these people bring in through bush trucks, maybe if they go into they will discover them. So you see that it's a very complex situation. May God help us. Then, Mr. Paul Obi, thank you for your insight, and Mr. Nurin Oyegule, Mr. Mustafa too. Well, thank you for your insight because you have contributed a lot to what we have been saying. Thank you.
Messages?
All right, this one says, ma'am, is it the porosity of the border that poses security threat or the lack of integrity among the Nigerian security officers? Now, why is it difficult to track down the importers of the illegal arms if due documentations were put in place, since these arms will be paid for through the banking system or a platform? How do we ensure that these seized or impounded ammunition do not eventually get to the wrong hands? Negotiamos. Kenny additional from Ashiro sent in that. Abdul Rashid Okela says when PMB administration insisted on Ahmadu Ali as the Controller General of Customs, those who know nothing about it began to lose their mouth. Can we now see the reason why Magwad Ahmadu Ali must be retained? Let's not deceive ourselves. We are no longer in the GJ-led PDP regime where groups and individuals could threaten the unity and security of this country. We have some countries as enemies, as neighbors, even within. Let us all be vigilant. Good morning to you all in the studio, especially my lecturer, Dr. Tope Olaifa. Illegal firearms should be curbed by the government by using a card license for all its carrier. I also want to ask that can the record of firearms in the local government be monitored by a department in the police force? And also ask if the importation can be checked by tightening our borders, both land and sea. That's Honorable Mankot Yusuf from Funab. Alright, let's quickly go to the tweets. This tweet is from Mark Ibekwe. We have to look more at what makes Nigerians import arms. I hope we are taking care of group grievances. I love Nigeria as a monolithic country. Uh, Jola Olaifa tweeted this. Okay, mommy is dishing out truths this morning. Okay, thank you. Isaac Oloede says, remember, okay, I think this has nothing to do with what we're discussing. Ladi Jobi Yomi says, most of these arms imported illegally have some legal backings. Most of them are for use by the politicians we have today. Yemi Da Vinci tweeted this, I don't think that we can ascribe proliferation of arms to poverty alone. Rich countries like Switzerland have lots of small arms. Poverty, however, plays an important role in proliferation of arms in Nigeria. Now, hunger they make people still pass for Nigeria now. It was a proliferation and ease of access to light weapons that made it easy for Boko Haram and militancy. And of course, okay, that's it. Okay, Yamida Vijisu continued. Poverty is what will make many customs officers collude with smugglers who smuggle weapons alongside benign items. What we need to do is to stop proliferation of small arms and reduce poverty, grant amnesty, and punish offenders harshly and swiftly. I must commend Nigeria Customs for arms seizures. Who knows if it's for IPOB, which claims Turkey is ready to recognize Biafra. All right, that's in the realm of conjecture. Don't forget Yamida Vinci. Professor Gola says, where are customs and relevant agents when the arms were crossing our borders? Nigeria is not a serious country, just a noisemaker. As long as governance in Nigeria remains cash and carry, importation of arms will never stop. Elections are won through gun barrels. That's still Professor Gola. The elections.
Thank you very much, everyone that has contributed. I want to say that all the contributions have actually reinforced what we have been saying, and I don't need to go over them. But I want to pay particular attention to Mrs. I want to believe it's Mrs. Kemi Additional who talked about due documentation. At our borders, that if it's lacking, lack of due documentation uh, uh, can also be one of the causes of the importation of illicit arms. Well, I want to say if we didn't have due documentation, it would have been very difficult for the customs people to profile all these cartons that come in. You know, the cartons, the containers that come in. The people are doing their job really. At least for now, we must commend the customs people, particularly at the ports. They are doing their jobs and they are infusing expertise into all these things. I think it is modern technology that they have used, in fact, to to impact on their documentation, impact of their strategic movements, the strategic works they are doing that have made all these seizures possible. Otherwise, if it had been in the past, and which was, we wouldn't have even heard about any form of arrest or anything. Illicit importation of arms did not just begin yesterday. It did not begin in 2016. But we see that the spate of arrest, the spate of vigilance at the ports now since 2016 has been very commendable. It's so high. Now, with some people, I think Mr. Rashid Okinla was commending the efficiency of the heads of customs and the rest of them. I think I join him to commend them, and I just want to say that they should keep up the good work. Mankot Yusuf and Professor Agbola, yes, we talked about tightening of the borders. It is very important. Yes, the borders need to be tightened them more because we can see this. They are early warning signs of impending conflict because if they bring in guns, they want to use it.
All right, let's just start the true calls.
Mr. Adisa Olakelani and Mr. MOK from Ayetoro. I think the two questions border on the same thing. While Mr. Olakelani is advocating for use of aircraft, high seas involvement, and you know, we cannot say we do not have these things in place. We do have them in place. The Nigerian Navy is there using manning the high seas, and we have the Nigerian Air Force using the aircraft. But the bottom line is that all these goods need to berth at the port. And when they berth, that is when they can be scrutinized effectively. And I think that is what the customs are now doing. I want to say the honor should not go to the customs alone, but other security agencies manning the ports too. They all are, because the customs have now, they have seized the goods, they have arrested some people, these people will be handed over to the police. The police will do its job. The quarantine people, in fact, all the agencies, they all have what they do there. So now, Mr. MOK Ayetoro, you talked about the punishment of importers and all that. Intelligence reports will be gathered about these things. Uh, Security reports too, everything has its own step. And it will not be okay while all these security activities are going on for anybody to begin to divulge information, at least not on air. That is why it seems sometimes you do not hear much about it. But you know that there are times you think you have forgotten about some cases and they just rear up their heads again. That is when investigations are concluded on them. So I want to assure you, I'm not speaking for the customs, but I know that these people, our security agents, are responsible and they will do whatever is necessary to bring these people to book. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. All those who sent in messages, those who tweeted, and of course those who called, we appreciate every one of you this morning on the show. Sincere appreciation goes to Dr. Tope Olaifa for coming in this morning and honoring our invitation, doing justice to the topic. Dr. Tope Olaifa is a member of the West African Action Against Small Arms and Light Weapons. He's also a lecturer at the Federal Ministry of Agriculture at Belkota FUNAB. He lectures peace and strategic studies, of course, security and intelligence studies. Thank you so much, Ma. We appreciate you this morning.
Thank you very much.
That's our show this morning. Join us again tomorrow for the Tuesday edition. I am Tobi Joseph.
And I'm Dele. Ayodo. I say God bless you all. God bless Nigeria. And God bless Rock City.